Hello everyone and welcome back. Today, I have for you 7 scary stories to listen to at work. So, put on your headphones and grab your flashlight because you are about to step into the darkness. The life of a pizza delivery boy is tiresome, to say the least. Sure, on sunny days, I am privileged enough to drive around town with the windows down and a menthol between my lips. The radio works all right, although the rear speakers have blown out. Hell, I'll even stoop as low as to steal a mozzarella stick or two. But overall, it's tiresome. The work is menial. I work for owners who don't respect me, look down on me, treat me as I am nothing but a tool, used to help them profit. It's degrading having people look at me as I walk the steps to their front porch, delivering the food that they can afford to have especially brought to their feet. But it's a means of survival for me. Cash rules everything around me. The people, however, are usually pretty normal. The night shift as a delivery boy works something like this. You sit at a restaurant waiting for a delivery. Usually, it's a drunk college kid ordering cheesy bread at 1 in the morning, or a couple ordering a pie for movie night. So when I saw an order for 6 pizzas with sausage and anchovies, I couldn't help but scratch my head. Who puts anchovies on their pizza anymore? They had ordered online, so the tip was included in the bill, $13. Definitely healthy for my wallet. No complaints there. So I put the address into my GPS. The route took me high up on the cliffs over the highway. Most of the houses up there were owned by banker-type snobs with too much money and too little social skills. The street lights kicked out about halfway up the hill, so high beams were a must. Houses dwindled between rows of dense, dark evergreens, but every 300 or 400 feet my confusion would be quelled with a stray porch lamp. When they stopped showing up, I began to worry. Had I missed the house? The GPS insisted we were headed in the right direction, so I trusted it. After not seeing a house for close to 5 minutes, my bright reflected off of a silver mailbox. Relieved, I slowed and turned left into the winding driveway. The house was set solid half a mile back, secluded from the rest of the township. For a house in the middle of nowhere, just whoa. It was old, like really old, but it looked as though whoever lived there knew how to keep a house. Fresh paint, clean lawn, the works. The windows were dimly lit behind curtains, so I knew someone was home. No garage though. I found that odd. You may be thinking to yourself, oh, hell no, no way, I'm out. But remember, if he doesn't get the food, I don't get the tip. So before getting out of the car, I made sure my doors were locked and called the number on the receipt. Oh, just kidding, no service. I put on my big boy pants and stepped out of the car, looking around to make sure there wasn't anyone watching me. As was my ritual, I left the car running. Deliveries only took a few seconds, and there's little point in turning off over the course of a night. I opened the trunk and took the pizzas out, which were still relatively warm, and hesitantly I walked towards the front door. The sensor lights came on, everywhere. It was blinding. Every direction, there were lights on the roof, above the door, lining the perimeter of the house. I didn't expect a house like this to have this kind of security. I was disoriented at first, but after shielding my eyes, I saw the front door open and a frail man step outside. Oh my, I'm terribly sorry about that. Let me get those off of you. Come, step inside. I'll get a pen and sign that for you. So, I stepped in. Fool. The house was surprisingly well furnished. Tasteful couch, television, newspapers on a coffee table, and clean. Very clean. But something was off, and I couldn't figure out what I had stepped into. dealing with parents with hungry children or rowdy dogs. No house had aroused suspicion like this though. What was off? The old man shuffled up from a back door, which I could only assume to be a kitchen, with a pen and a coin purse. Family pictures. It hit me out of nowhere. There wasn't a single picture in the whole living room. Not a painting, no relatives, nor anything. The walls were bare. "It's been a very long day, son. Why don't you sit down and rest a while?" "Thank you, sir," I said, "but I really must be getting back to the store. Deliveries pile up around this time. Everyone wants to get their order in before closing time." "Oh, I guess you're right. Before you leave, can you help me bring the pies down the stairs? My son is down there, doing whatever it is he does, and I needs be holding on to that handrail in order to get down there. I'll pay you kindly for it. These bones don't move like they used to." So I did. He may be creepy, but he was seriously old, and his request seemed honest enough. I followed him as he inched through the living room and into the kitchen, and out of burning curiosity, I asked, "Hey, why are there no pictures of you or your sons around? A lot of houses I deliver have family portraits and the like. Forgive me if I am intruding, sir. It just strikes me as peculiar." He opened the door to the basement and started his way down. "Oh, there are some pictures, but none that I consider good enough to hang. Judah isn't very photogenic." Step by step, he made his way down the staircase. There was a musty smell working its way into my nostrils, and a singing tickle that could only be described as burning. I tasted something full, rotting even. Something was off again, and the growls became audible, similar to a hound. I froze, thinking to myself, "You need to abort, escape, now." "You can just put them right there, on this table. Judah loves anchovy pizzas after a meal." As I reached the bottom of the steps and turned my head, I saw the grey misshapen hulk lurch forward, held back by massive chains. The creature let out a hellish squeal. "Judah, it's time for dinner." I don't know what happened to that old man. I don't know if the pizzas were ever eaten. I don't know if the old man will ever fix the doors that I kicked down on the way out. And I don't know if the shredded pizza bags littering that basement were the property of delivery boys less fortunate than I. All I know is that I need a new job, because I am never delivering another fucking pizza ever again. My name is Maria. I am a biology student from Ohio who's currently studying abroad in Australia. I work at a wildlife conservatory in New South Wales. It's mostly labor work. I clean the enclosures and give some of our smaller animals baths. I am also responsible for feeding Anita, our 16-foot saltwater crocodile. Twice a day, I bring dead chickens to her enclosure and toss them to her from the shore of her personal pond. It's dangerous work, but Anita doesn't frighten me anymore. I've learned to interpret her behavior, and I know how to react accordingly. I know when she's hungry, when she's feeling annoyed. I even know when she's feeling playful. Anita and I have a rapport, or at least as much of a rapport as a tiny pink bag of meat can have with the largest carnivorous species of reptile on the planet. But the thing is, she started acting straight a few weeks ago. She would be slow in coming to her feeding, or she wouldn't come at all. I haven't been able to figure out her mood lately. I talked to the conservatory's veterinarians, but there was no sign of anything physically wrong with Anita. At first, I thought maybe there was an impending natural disaster, as animals are known to behave abnormally before an earthquake or storm, but that didn't hold up, since none of the other animals changed their behavior. Whatever was happening, it had to be confined to Anita's enclosure or Anita herself. We played around with the idea that maybe it was me. Maybe Anita was behaving strangely because she no longer wanted to interact with me specifically. So, For a week, we tried new feeders. 2 different people would take turns feeding her each day. It didn't work. Anita stopped eating altogether until I resumed feeding her. I have to admit, as much as I wanted to find out what was going on, a part of me was glad she still wanted to interact with me. I took it upon myself to do an inspection of Anita's enclosure. It took the better part of a day to search an area that large, but I found something. There was a patch of loose soil around a section of a perimeter fence, and a gap dug down from under the fence. Something dug its way into the enclosure. I don't know how we missed it for so long, but I brought the discovery to my boss, and the enclosure was searched again, this time by a team. Apart from the dug-out fence, they found no trace of an unknown animal inside Anita's enclosure. There were no footprints or droppings. It was assumed by most that Anita had eaten whatever was unfortunate enough to break into her home. I wasn't convinced, though. Something caused the change in my friend's behavior, and I could tell the other conservatory employees were starting to lose interest. The vets assured them that Anita was healthy. I knew the conservatory wasn't going to invest much more time or resources into investigating Anita's problem, so I came up with a plan to do it myself. Night was the only time Anita wasn't observed, so I would stay with her one night and watch for trouble. Sneaking past the night guards and cameras would have been too difficult, so I opted to not leave at all. I parked in a different parking lot, so no one would notice my car still there after hours and when my shift ended. I hid in the locker room until I was certain all of my co-workers had gone home for the night. I didn't want to enter Anita's enclosure after dark, so I walked the perimeter fence from outside. It's never a good idea to enter the territory of a massive predator after dark, no matter what kind of rapport you have with them. I used night vision goggles to see into the enclosure. I found Anita on the back of her pond, looking eerie in the green light of the night vision. Her mouth was open and pointed toward the sky. It was a bizarre position for a crocodile to be, and I couldn't think of a reason for it. There were no clinging birds around to pick food, and leeches from between her teeth, and even if there were, there's no reason for her to tilt her head towards the sky. Then it happened. Anita's eyes convulsed, and she started making muffled barking noises. An arm reached out of her throat and grabbed the side of her snoot. It pulled the rest of itself out. It was humanoid shape, with a torso about the size of a toddler's and limbs that were too long in proportion to the rest of its body. I could not tell what color it was through the night vision, but it looked wetly, like a newt, or maybe that was Anita's body fluids making it appear that way. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe until I saw that thing rear its head and look directly at me, like its eyes met mine through the goggles. I dropped the goggles and fled for the front gate, screaming all the way. I don't remember much of the next few hours. The security guard found me crying hysterically at the gate and brought me inside. He called the director, who came back to the facility and listened to me ramble about the thing I saw crawl from Anita's body. As you can probably guess, no one believed me. It looks like my days at the conservatory are almost over. I wasn't supposed to be there at night, and after my crazy story, it seems like most people think I was staying after to do drugs. They've suspended my duties, and I imagine I'll soon be on a plane back to the States. No word on whether or not this will affect my career. I want to say goodbye to Anita, but now, every time I walk by her enclosure, her eyes follow me, and I don't think it's my friends watching me. Writing this from a hotel bar. Yes, I have had a drink or two, or 3. I recently started working security at a mall. Yeah, I know, Paul Blart, blah blah blah. The job isn't really for me, as I am neither a wannabe cop nor do I get off on powered trips. But I do enjoy some aspects of it. I like a lot of the people I work with, and I like being prepared for emergencies. I train like crazy in case there's a fire or bomb threat. I study main designs and evacuation plan, so that if something happens, I can get people out safely. The vast majority of the time, I work a fake job. I walk or drive around the site so that people can see that security is there. Most of my job is just security theater. Sometimes I stop people from breaking into your car or break up fights, and though you may think I'm extraneous most of the time, when push comes to shove, you'd rather someone be there than not. Friday night, they mentioned me by the food court. This is the prime location for kids. It's where most of them get picked up by their parents. It's where most of them strut and phone and make anyone over 20 cringe with their transparent ridiculousness. Last Friday, I am working my route and I see about 20 or so people moving as a group towards the exit. This is not a good sign. I follow them from behind and they surround a few kids sitting on a bench. Something is going down. I radio dispatch for backup and advice of the situation. I'm comparatively huge, so I can see over everyone's head. I can see an older guy, maybe 40, pointing semi-violently at some young kid, 15. The kid looks scared. The guy looks like crazy white trash. I'm moving through the crowd and get closer. If the guy puts his hand on the kid, I'll have to do something. Don't touch him, man. Don't do it. Just don't. I yell out something like, "Okay, everyone break it up." But the guy will not back the fuck up. He's a little guy, no bigger than a kid. He has something to prove, a Napoleon complex. I don't want to get into a fight here. I don't want to get sued. He pulls his arm back, and I know he's going to hit the kid. I used to work as a bouncer. I know how to control people like this. I grab him by the forearm as his hand is back. He struggles. I roll him in close, surrounding him and putting my arm around his chest from behind, and my head all the way on the side so he doesn't butt me, and I can stop him from doing so. My backup arrives and starts clearing the crowd back. He says the cops are coming. Though I didn't hear him radio them, they are on site and use our radios. I'm still holding this guy. I can smell something on him. Not liquor, it smells almost like burning rubber. I'm 80% sure it's the smell of crack. The cops arrive, they take the guy, take my statement and talk to the kid. I wait with the kid until his mom comes to get him, and we talk. He thanks me, which is always nice, and he claims to have no idea who the guy was. He said the guy was saying something about, "Don't you touch my kid," but he has no idea what kid he's talking about. He never touched anyone. After his mom gets him, I stay late to write my stupid report. We have to write these asinine reports anytime anything remotely interesting happens. They claim they're legal documents, but I think that's probably bullshit. I finish up and head to my car. It's about 1:30 a.m. and the parking lot is pretty empty. As I get to my car, I see some headlights turn on from another car a few rows over. I didn't see anyone walking to their car, but I was tired, so maybe I just didn't pay close enough attention. As I leave, the lights seem to follow me. No matter what I do, they're still right behind me. It's a white car, maybe a Charger. I can't quite tell at the time. It definitely had the crossbeam front like the modern Dodges. I test if he's following me. I pull into a development, take a ridiculous route, and he's behind me the whole fucking time. Back onto the main road. I can't go back to my house now. I drive to the local police station. I know some cops there. I'll go in and say hi. When I pull into the parking lot, he keeps driving. I go home, fine, with no incident. Saturday, I go to work again. This time I'm working a bit earlier, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I get done and go home without incident. Around 10 p.m. I head back out and I see a white Dodge sedan parked across the street from me. When I look over, they turn on the engine, the lights pop on, and it drives away. I get home 3 a.m. Sunday and find a dead squirrel on my front steps. I am a bit intoxicated at that point, so I go in and go to bed. Today, around 11 a.m., I check and the squirrel is gone. Around 12:30, I go out to drive to work. My car won't start. It won't even try to turn over. I have never had anything like this happen. I have no fucking clue what's going on. I try the key a bit. All the electrical shit works. Then I go to start and everything shuts off. I pop the hood and everything looks fine. I call my friend and he gives me a ride to work. I do my shift like normal and get off at 9 p.m. I take a cab home, get there around 9:20 p.m. and a lot is wrong. My car is gone. My front door is open. My dog is missing. And I see that fucking white car parked a few houses down. I have the cab drive me to the police station. I closed the front door but didn't touch anything else. I already met with a detective. He said the guy I mentioned earlier is a possibility. They only held him for a few hours. Apparently, attempting to punch a kid isn't enough of a crime to keep you in custody. He might be after me. He said they'll find my report, check out my house, and check up on the guy. But there's no much they can really do right now. He said I shouldn't hold out much hope for my dog, and the car is a crapshoot. Most of the time they wind up ditches somewhere nearby, but he says it would be best if I stayed somewhere else for the night. I don't make a lot of money, and the closest hotel is Sheraton. This is costing me $150 at night, a little more for the internet access, because they're assholes. I can't afford to stay here long, maybe a day or two. I'll have to go home eventually. I won't lie, I'm a bit scared. This guy didn't seem particularly stable, and he seems to be focusing his crazy on me. Fuck this shit, I'm drinking. Maybe this shit will be dealt with tomorrow. I do not get paid anywhere near enough for this bullshit. I'm getting a gun. Fuck this guy. I'm going home tomorrow. If this little ass wants to attack me, I'll blow his tiny fucking brains out. I don't know what killed Emma McKinley. I saw the video feed of what happened, but I just need to say that I still don't know what did it. The police ruled it a suicide, which I don't doubt why they said it, but I don't think I can really accept that as the only answer anymore. She was opening, and like always, we made our dough first thing in the morning. She flipped on the radio before roasting the ingredients into the big mechanical mixer and started it. It takes 15 minutes to finish mixing a batch of dough. Usually, we stand around or do other prep work. 2 days ago, she opted to stand around. It seemed so normal watching the feed. You could tell this is the 100th time she has done it. But suddenly, she seemed alerted or bothered by something. She looked around, then I don't know, so determined. She leaned into the mixer. It didn't take a moment for the claw to catch her under the arm and twist her body up. Her hair caught in the gears, snapping her head upward. Sorry, I can't get the image out of my head. You get to know your coworker so well over the years, even if you never see them out of the store. So right off the idea of her choosing to take her own life just seemed wrong. She wasn't the most happy person you'd ever met. Hell, she was outstandingly ordinary. But suicide seemed like it was the only answer, and nobody really wants to ask more questions. Now, some backstory, I guess. I worked here for years, like 8 years I think. It's a small pizza franchise in a little riverside town. We have 9 employees, or had, I guess. I suppose there's just the 8 of us now. We can be a goofy bunch while we work. It's slowly enough where we can all relax most of the time, but busy enough to pay well and keep us here. I feel weird even saying this so soon to her death, but it's related and I feel like you guys might understand. I'm almost positive this store is haunted or something. All the time we hear the weird noise, or something seems to have moved on its own. A number of times I've heard a weird noise. A number of times I've opened this door and found balls of knives lying on the ground, without explanation. The strangest phenomenon would be how our radio seems to play its own music. I don't know, and I guess I can't prove this, but it just seems we occasionally hear music that doesn't make any sense, but it also doesn't seem to bother or change anything. Being a restaurant, we usually play a top 40 pop station. That is, if we aren't playing music off our own phones. Only a small handful of times have these stations played some strange oldies. We would joke about how strange a choice it was from the station to play this song. Yet, one time, our driver came back from a delivery and confirmed the station didn't play the same tune in his car. And I mean, none of us were blown away at this revelation or anything. Until today. Today I got the pleasure of opening for the first time since she died. And I am not afraid to say, I was very spooked and uncomfortable and a plethora of other emotions today. I only made one batch of dough, even though we probably needed more. The whole time I just had this creeping feeling. I was obsessed with the thought of why she did what she did. I started the mixer and hid around the front of the store, as if the mixer would grab me and pull me in. Nothing ever did end up happening with it all, however. No, it was later. I'm sure the town is just as uncomfortable with the news as we are. I don't really know how to describe what happened next. I was standing there, staring to the oven. I was watching the slow-moving conveyor roll into the loud, rumbling dark pit of the oven. I was thinking about what it would feel like to climb inside it, what it would feel like to have the heat blasting down on my skin. I could see my skin start to bubble. I felt my hair burning and melting to my head. I felt my spit sizzling out of my burnt limbs. It felt like something was taking over me. The front door security jiggle pulled me out of my trance. It felt like I was 100 miles away, instantly snapping back into the store. I felt fuzzy in my head as I spun towards the front counter to hazily greet the customer, and I just barely noticed the music. It wasn't the poppy top 40 songs. It was some strange older song ending, sounded like the 70s. All I can really remember is burn, 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 and something like the kitchen is on fire. And that's where I'm at. I don't know if it sounds like much. I can say that during my little trance today, I wanted to cook myself in the oven. So I don't know if Emma took her own life, or if something else made her. Guys, I needed this job. I've dedicated a lot of my life to this place. It's not the greatest career, but I don't have any education. This is a small town. I have 2 kids. I don't know what to do, but I'm feeling very uncomfortable, and I need to know if this is just in my head or not. In the mid-80s, my mom was a cleaner in Australia. She would do clean houses in suburban areas and would sometimes do houses in rural regions. She would leave business cards at the local shops and got most of her business this way, and some through referrals and word of mouth. One day, she got a call from a lady who sounded like she was around 60, asking Mom to clean her old farmhouse. She made a lot of odd demands, and Mom usually met clients before taking on new business. In this case, the lady did not want to meet my mom and said she would leave the keys under the front doormat. Mom agreed, mainly because the lady was quite obviously wealthy and was offering to pay Mom substantially more than she would reasonably expect. My mom went to the house on a Monday morning and said she already felt unnerved by the long driveway. The house was essentially in the middle of a very large and very empty property. She found the keys and started cleaning. About an hour into the clean, she heard the back door shut. Mom was told, no one would be at the house, so she immediately felt unsafe. She stood frozen in the kitchen for what she said felt like 3 to 4 minutes, although she said it could have been much longer. There was no other car on the property. She wanted to leave immediately, but had 2 rooms left to go. Both were bedrooms. She said, as time passed and she heard nothing else, she decided that perhaps it was nothing, or perhaps something had fallen, and it wasn't the door after all. She walked up the hallway and stepped into the bedroom. All over the bed were black and white photos. As Mom got closer, she realized the photos were all of her. Some were taken at her family home, and many others were taken at other houses Mom would clean, some through windows or over fences. She used the house phone to call the police and immediately drive to the end of the driveway. The lady ended up being investigated, but continued to claim that it was a break-in. After some time, the police stopped with their searching, and we ended up moving to a new town 4 months later. Every time my mom tells me this story, I get serious chills. Absolutely a true story too. To one day, my mom thinks the lady had something to do with it. But why? And for what purpose? First of all, completely true. I work at a candy store in a small historic town in North Carolina. The house that the candy store is in is over 100 years old and has had multiple residents through the years. It's been known that the place might be haunted, as we have multiple customers come to us and say that they see a woman standing at the top of the stairs, staring down at them. All of the customers say that she is an older woman with an old-fashioned dress. Okay, kinda weird. Whatever. My boss never really thought much of it. It took about a month for anything to really start happening to me personally. I started seeing shadows out the corner of my eye while I was closing up. I could swear it was a person standing there, so it scared me, thinking someone had walked in after closing. Nothing is ever there when I turn to check. I usually end up walking all the way through the house just to make sure no one had broken in. That went on for a few weeks, and then I would start hearing banging upstairs where the bathroom and storage rooms are. I never checked it until the other night, when it was just so loud that I had to at least make sure nothing was getting broken up there. I walked up there, and as soon as I got to the middle of the stairs, the banging stopped. I thought it was coming from the bathroom, so I go to make sure everything is intact, which it was. I check both of the storage rooms. Nothing. Whatever. Probably the ghost messing with me. I start back down the stairs, and then something starts rapidly banging on the door once I get to the middle of the steps. I stop dead in my tracks, as this was so loud that it legitimately rattled my nerves a little bit. I walk back up there and it stops again. At this point, I'm pretty nervous and just run back downstairs to finish closing, so I can get the hell out of there. As I am briskly returning to the candy store portion of the house, I hear banging, the loudest I've heard it yet, and it sounds like pans and jars are being thrown everywhere up there. Then I hear stomping, and like someone is sprinting as fast as they can back and forth. I don't want to deal with it anymore, and at this point I'm scared shitless, so I just lock the door and leave. As I'm turning to look at the house from the outside, I can see the light upstairs turn on. The next day, today, I return. Everything's quiet. I try to pretend that I never heard anything. I go through my day like normal, nothing weird happens, blah blah blah. Well, it's closing time again. I'm counting out the register, and I see someone standing near the entrance. I go to tell them we're closed, and of course, no one is there. Great. Note this again. I continue counting out the register, and I hear running from upstairs again. Then I hear a blood-curdling scream. What the fuck? I ran up the stairs, stupidly expecting to see something, and of course, nothing is there. I check both storage rooms. Nothing. Okay, this is getting weird. Did that scream came from the outside? So, I go look around the house and no one is there. I take a deep breath and walk back in. When I get to the door, it's locked. I don't lock it. Why am I locked out? The keys were still inside, so I had no choice but to climb through the window on the side of the house. It is open from the window air conditioner we have installed in it. I hear a huge fucking bang from upstairs and everything rattles. Okay, I'm going to fucking get to the bottom of this. I ran upstairs, swing open the storage room door and start just throwing shit. I start unstacking the huge stack of boxes that's against the wall, and that's when I saw it. There was a small closet in the wall. Ha! Never noticed that before. I go to open it, and there's a pull chain light fixture, so I pull it, and a dim light flickers on. The closet is empty, except for piles of what looked like dirt that was directly in the center of the closet. It was in 3 small, perfectly formed piles. What the fuck? Okay, whatever. This is fucking creepy. I switch the light off and close the door. Right as I close the door, I could see through the gap underneath the door that the light switched back on. I decide to just get the fuck out of there. As I am walking out of the room, I hear the creaking of the closet door opening again. I hear a deep voice whispering, didn't recognize the language, and footsteps coming up behind me. I fucking slam the shit out of the door, sprint down the stairs, and grab my keys. As I was leaving, I heard a kid laughing. When I got home, I discovered that I had 3 scratch marks on my side and 1 on the back of my neck, which were burning like fucking crazy. I don't want to go back tomorrow. Hey there, editors. I've got a pretty wild story to share with you. Not looking for advice. This is more like a warning. I recently started an intern position at a big company. The office building was a pretty old and kind of rundown. On my first day, a co-worker who had been assigned to show me the ropes pointed out that there was no floor 13 listed on the elevator panel. It goes straight from 12 to 14. I laughed about it. Superstition, am I right? And then didn't think about it again for months. A week ago, I volunteered to stay late and finish up some work in the hope that my intern job might turn into something more permanent if I showed enough initiative. By the time I finished, it was 8 o'clock at night, and as far as I knew, I was the only person in the entire building. I was pretty tired, so when I got to the elevator, I slouched against the wall and watched the little blinky light thing count down the floors. 19, 17, 16, 15, 14, and then the elevator stopped. We've all seen movies on TV shows where an elevator gets stuck between floors and someone opens the doors to a view of a brick wall. I figured that's what had happened. The elevator stopped between floors 14 and 12, so I was surprised when I pressed the door open button and saw a dark corridor instead of a wall. The button panel was no longer working, so I decided to leave the elevator and take the stairs down, rather than press the call button and wait for someone to come rescue me. The light switch near the elevator didn't work, which made sense. Clearly, there had been some sort of power failure and the elevator had stopped at floor 14 or 12. I used my phone as a flashlight instead. I had never been to any floor but the one I worked on, and I was immediately taken aback by how neglected the place looked. There was a thick layer of dust everywhere, and when I got into an office area, all of the desks were bare. Some were sagging or falling apart. The entire floor looked as if it had been abandoned for years, which was strange, because I had been told that the whole building was occupied. I went to the nearest window, intending to see how far the power failure had spread, and got a fright when I saw that it was completely pitch black outside. The light from my phone just barely illuminated the face of the nearest building across a narrow alleyway. And looking further down the street, there wasn't a hint of light. No street lights, no illuminated windows, nothing. For a moment, I thought there had been a major power failure, like the one that hit New York in the previous decade, and then realized that I couldn't even see car headlights. I could not hear any cars either, or any sound at all. It was as quiet as the grave. How did that make any sense? So, I went immediately to the staircase leading down to the ground floor, only to find it locked shut with a rusty chain. That made no sense at all. That staircase was a fire exit. Why would someone chain it shut? Why did it look as if it had been in that state for years? I decided to hunt around for a key. As I searched the smaller rooms, I came across a number of very weird things. One of them was filled with what looked like mold. In another, I found a suit made out of a strange heavy material, folded on a chair in such a way that it looked like a person sitting there. Nearly gave me a heart attack. Some of the desk drawers had papers filled with gibberish in them. A filing cabinet was filled with dusty light bulbs. After about 20 minutes of this, I found a rusty key hanging up in a supply closet and unlocked the chain. This place was starting to spook me, and I was looking forward to coming back in the daylight to find out what the hell this deal was. But the door didn't open. I got a glimpse of a long bare corridor before my phone's light caught something moving. Something that had round pale eyes. Something very much not human. I ran for it, back toward the elevator. The thing chased me. Its footsteps were shuffling and awkward, but fast, and I could hear its wheezing breath at my back. When I got to the hallway leading to the elevator, the door started to close. I'd like to tell you I escaped by doing some cool action movie stunts, maybe rolling in between the doors just as they shut, but I honestly don't remember how I got away. All I recall is running faster than I thought possible, propelled by the most intense terror I've ever experienced. It wasn't the creature chasing me I was necessarily afraid of. It was the fear of being stuck in that place. In those few seconds before I reached safety, my conscious mind accepted the idea that had been growing ever since my arrival on floor 13. I had stumbled into a place I should not have been, and if I didn't escape now, then I never would. The last thing I saw before the elevator doors closed were the creature's round eyes, bobbing in the light. A few seconds later, I emerged into a bright lobby, the sounds of traffic coming in from outside, and collapsed to my knees. I've since quit that job. I no longer ride in elevators that have a missing floor. I am not sure either of those precautions guarantee safety. I keep remembering the dark, silent city I saw outside the office window. Whatever that place is, I think it's big, and there are probably a lot of ways to enter it. I wonder how many missing person cases are the result of an experience like mine that didn't turn out so well. Hey there, and thank you so much for listening. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up. And if you like my videos and want to see more, subscribe to my channel. Also, let me know in the comments below which was your favorite story. Take care, and I will see you all in my next video.